welcome to my channel. As promised, in today's video we will check out the miniature and semi-miniature African violets that are blooming at the beginning of the new year of 2023. And today is the 2nd of January. Here are two plants of a semi-miniature called Emerald Pink. I like this hybrid for the very unusual prolific blooms that are standing on tall bloom stalks, and they're very soft peachy pink color. It's a very good bloomer, as you can see. Emerald Pink. Here we have two plants of Kentucky gooseberries, and as you can see they look a little different. This one is a young plant, blooming true, Kentucky gooseberries with white rose-shaped double blooms with pink centers. Many more flower buds coming up. And this one is almost half of it is open now. This is a sport of Kentucky gooseberries. As you can see, it has darker foliage than the true blooming plant, and also more pink in the center of the blooms. And I like both of them, so I keep both the true blooming hybrid and its sport. Here is a hybrid called Teen Bride by Horton Spitman. This one blooms with very light, soft pink double roses or rose-shaped blooms that are formed in clusters on tall bloom stalks. Here is a trailer variety. I believe it's considered a semi-miniature trailer called Lituanika. I like it for the very unusual large blooms that are kind of like light coral pink with darker tips. However, this particular strain that I have tends to zipper, which is a genetic defect, so I will have to look for a different strain and regrow this plant for my collection from a different source. Lituanika, it's a trailer. Here is a wasp semi-miniature called DS-Marshmallow. It blooms with light pink wasp-shaped blooms, and it has dark green foliage. Here is Optimara Little Trio, blooming whichever way it likes. I purchased it as a leaf from the official distributor of Optimara hybrids in the United States called Selective Gardener. It's called Optimara Little Trio, I believe, because the blooms are supposed to have 3 different colors in them: white, purple, and green. And this one seems to be having more purple, and I still like it because it blooms very profusely, and it's a very very good bloomer, as you can see. Next is a chimera semi-miniature with variegated foliage called Eternal Orbit from Linden Line Greenhouses. Here we have two plants of a variety that I thought I had lost, but then I was very excited to see that I still have it in my collection. It's called Jolie Moonflower by Horton Spitman. I like the dark green foliage and the very full double blooms on this variety that are kind of like creamy off-white color. Jolie Moonflower. It's not often seen in African violet collections, And I also like the light green color on the flower buds. It's a good bloomer. Then here we have Rob's Dodo Bird, just beginning to bloom. It has golden crown variegation on foliage, and the blooms are pencil-shaped blue with some white edge. Here we have very young plants of Hector. This is a beautiful hybrid by Hortense Pittman with variegated foliage and dark purple burgundy colored blooms. This is a no ID miniature that I got from my local club when I used to live in Southern California. And this one is Allie's Blizzard Bunny, just beginning to bloom, with double white rose-shaped blooms. And here we have N-Thumbelina, or in the original language N-Diuimovochka by Nadezhda Bernikova. Here we have Wesley's Father Kent, just beginning to bloom. This is another wasp with white-green wasp-shaped blooms and variegated foliage. Vallarta Campanas Moradas. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it correctly. Maybe it's Vallarta Campanas Moradas. This is a trailer with bell-shaped purple blooms, just beginning to open up. This is Mac's Dark Night of the Soul. This is a very unusual variety. It has very dark blooms, but somehow the amount of pigment in the flower petals is not always quite there. So the blooms appear to be kind of like washed out in color. And this has variegated foliage. But the way the leaves grow on this variety always surprises me, because it doesn't have the most symmetrical rosette, let's put it this way. Mac's Dark Night of the Soul. And I'm still uncertain if I want to keep this variety in my collection. But it's quite unusual. Definitely an unusual looking hybrid. This is made in Japan with curl foliage and pencil-shaped, very light lavender blooms with white penciled edge. The hybridizer of this variety is unknown. This is another unusual looking plant, and I will always keep this one. It has very tall bloom stalks, as you can see. It's a good bloomer as well. Made in Japan. Here is a Ukrainian hybrid, LE-Nika or LE-Nika. It blooms with rose-shaped blooms that are kind of like dark orchid in color. It struggles in colder growing temperatures right now, so it's not blooming very profusely. Here we have not a miniature, it's a standard that I missed in yesterday's episode. I only found it on the shelf today. It's Cajun's Fair Maiden, and I wanted to make sure that I include it in today's episode because it's one of my favorite Cajuns. It has variegated foliage and very light, delicate pink blooms. And the blooms have darker edge in warmer growing conditions. Here you can see it's barely visible, but in the summertime it has more dark pink around the petals. and it's a hybrid by Belinda Thibodeau. Cajun's Fair Maiden. Then here we have a semi-miniature trailer, Rob's Vanilla Trail, blooming with tiny little light pink roses. Then here we have 2W Sandellen. I'm not even sure how to pronounce it, but here is the name. And this is blooming very profusely, finishing off the blooming cycle. First it starts opening up with little bell-shaped blooms, but then later the bell blooms open up fully, and they almost look like pansies, like semi-open pansy shaped. It's a very unusual hybrid with longifolia variegated foliage. Here we have Rob's Sugar Cube, a mini just beginning to bloom. And Irish Flirt. This is a favorite of those who like green colored blooms. And this one just keeps on blooming if you let it. Irish Flirt.